In today's video, I'll be sharing with you 3 of my favourite Zwift workouts that have really boosted my FTP and improved my cycling power. Hello and welcome back to the channel. I'm Josh, a medical student and triathlete based here in London. On this channel, we talk all things swim, bike and run, whether those be vlogs or training tips videos such as today's one. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, please consider hitting that subscribe button, as it really means a lot to me. Like I said, in today's video, I'll be giving you some of my favourite workouts to do on Zwift, and we'll be splitting this video up into 2 main parts. Firstly, I'll be breaking down exactly what kind of workouts I do on Zwift and why I do them, and then secondly, I'll go through those 3 workouts. So let's dive straight into the video. So let's start by discussing what types of workouts I like doing on Zwift. I think one of the biggest benefits of Zwift is being able to do workouts where you need to hold specific power within a specific zone for a specific amount of time, whether that be VO2 max, threshold, zone 2, when you need to hold a specific amount of power for a specific amount of time, it's very hard to do that out on the road because you often need to stop for cars or for traffic lights or whatever it may be, or on a downhill. You're not able to put out the same amount of power that you need to for that whole thing. You end up losing some of the benefit. Whereas on Zwift, you never have to stop, so you can smash that 10-minute interval at the exact power that you need every time. And personally, I love using erg mode for these kind of things. For those of you who don't know, erg mode is a feature on many smart trainers nowadays, which adjusts the resistance of the spinning flywheel to hold you at a specific watts for the entirety that you tell it to. And this is something you can program Zwift, and it will tell your smart trainer to do that for you. And this is incredible because then all you have to do is think about pedaling, and you'll be pushing against the correct amount of resistance that allows you to push those watts you want to. These could be short, sharp intervals where you really need to hit power immediately at the start and hold it all the way through to the end. All these could be longer 10, 15, 20-minute efforts where sometimes, especially for me, if I'm not really thinking about it, it's difficult to let the power kind of sag a little bit in the middle, and then you end up having to try and do much more at the end, and you're losing the intended benefits of the interval that you're doing. Regardless of whether or not you do the sessions that I'd recommend, I would really insist on planning sessions where you do specific watts for a specific amount of time to get a very specific benefit. The kind of sessions that you really would struggle to do out on the road. For all of the workouts I'm going to talk about in this video, I really recommend a 10 or 15 minute warm-up just to make sure that your legs are ready for some of these quite difficult intervals. The first workout I'd like to talk about is sprints. Yes, we are starting with short, sharp intervals at a really high amount of power. These can often be difficult to do and you're motivating yourself out on the road. However, when you're on Zwift, especially if you're using erg mode, all you have to do is focus on keeping those pedals moving for those short intervals. The workout I'm going to recommend here is 30-second sprints matched with 30 seconds of recovery time. I'd recommend doing 4 high-intensity intervals before taking a 2 to 5 minute break and repeating as many times as you can. If you can do this even once or twice, it'll be an absolutely savage workout. And you should be trying to just go max out, so it might not be worth using erg mode in these unless you know a specific power that you'd like to be able to try and hit for all of them. But really kind of focus on just giving it your all and then having 30 seconds of really easy rest coming up. Once you're more comfortable with this type of workout, you can increase the power of the sprints, you can increase the duration or the number of the sprints, slightly reduce the recovery. There are loads of dials you can play to make these kind of sessions harder, but they will definitely improve that top end power and it will make your threshold seem a lot easier. Next up, we've got VO2 max intervals. And although these aren't quite as hard as the sprint intervals, they definitely will be working on your cycling power and your oxygen utilization. And obviously, because they aren't as hard as those sprints, we'll be doing these for significantly longer. I'd start with intervals of around 3 minutes per interval with around 2 to 3 minutes of rest between them. If you can do 5 or 6 of these, then you'll be absolutely flying on your next group ride. But don't worry if you can't do that many just to start. For each of those 3 minute to start hard intervals, I'd aim for somewhere around 110% of your FTP. This is going to feel really hard, but should be manageable for all of those intervals. And if you want a real challenge, something that I like to do is just increase the power in each interval. So the first interval at 110% of your FTP, and then the next one maybe 5 watts more, and the next one 5 watts more, just to really push yourself, as the first ones will feel so much easier than the last ones by the end. And again, as this workout becomes easier and you've done it a few times, you can start to increase the duration of those intervals. I'd say anywhere up to about 6 minutes is perfect, but over 6 minutes, you're unlikely to be able to hold that VO2 max unless you are incredible, and then good on you. You probably don't need this video. Just don't go too crazy with this workout for us mere mortals, and it can be incredibly taxing on your body. Our third and final workout for this video are threshold intervals. Now these are incredibly difficult to do out on the road because they should be anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes long, and that's really hard to find an uninterrupted slope that you can do these on unless, I don't know, you're living in Girona, where there are so many nice long climbs of 20 minutes, you could easily do these on. But for the rest of us who are living here in London, for instance, we're going to hit a traffic light before we even get started. So again, we're making our intervals longer but slightly lower power, and this really should be a bread and butter session. I try and do one of these every single week, especially for triathlon, but just cycling in general. These are incredibly beneficial. This is the kind of power that you're going to be riding in when things get tough in a race, or when you're doing a time trial. Hard enough so that you're really feeling it and you're putting out a lot of power, but you're still able to clear that lactate out of your legs and be able to push that power for quite a while consistently. These intervals should be done around your FTP, meaning that they both boost your general fitness and are a really good way to boost that FTP. I'd start with 10-minute intervals with around a 5-minute recovery, allowing your heart rate to come all the way back down and be fully recovered to nail that next interval. One of the most important things to think about on this longer interval, anywhere from 10 to 20 minutes, is to focus on keeping your cadence consistent. You don't want to be slowing down, putting it into a bigger gear. You want to be keeping it nice and smooth and consistent, really trying to spin the legs, as that will make it significantly easier on the muscles. To make these sessions more difficult, again, increase the duration up to about 20 minutes, increase the power, especially as your FTP starts to increase. And you can play around with slightly shorter recovery, although I wouldn't go too much lower than 5 minutes, as you really want your heart rate to kind of come back down to a nice zone 2 resting, to make sure that you can kind of hold consistent power through each interval. I also wouldn't do more than 3 of these intervals per session, as they can be incredibly taxing on your body because you're pushing quite high power for quite a long time. So just be careful, especially if you have another hard session the day before. But definitely give these threshold sessions a go. They're one of my favorites, and they definitely will build your FTP. So that's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. If I've missed your favorite Zwift workout, leave it down in the comments below. If you liked this video, please consider hitting that like button. If you want to see similar videos in the future, hit the subscribe button again, because it will make a massive difference to me. On screen now is my most recent Zwift race, so you can see how quickly I get dropped. But apart from that, I'll see you all in the next video.